The Dolphins 2025 NFL schedule came out yesterday afternoon, and on today's show, we are actually going to go game by game, week by week, and I'll give my early predictions. A lot to happen this offseason when it comes to maybe a Jalen Ramsey trade, signing corners, but here at Dolphins Today, I'm Nic Rohloff. We're going to try to look at what I think the Dolphins season will ultimately become. And before we do that, quick outlook at the schedule. First 8 weeks are as follows. Nothing crazy. Home opener against New England in week 2. Start the year on the road against the Colts. Back-to-back divisional primetime games in week 3 and 4 before a weird middle stretch of the season where you play a lot of random teams, if you will. Final in 9 games of the season, here. You got some interesting ones. Ravens, Bills, Commanders all in a row. Then you have your bye after the Madrid game against Washington. New Orleans, easy game after the bye, which is very nice, before rounding out the season against some tough teams in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Tampa, New England, couple road, cold weather games, couple home games. Cincinnati at home in Week 16, better than having to go there. So interesting schedule. Summary of the Dolphins 2025 schedule. You got 8 home games, 8 away games, 1 neutral game, that 11th week game against the Washington Commanders in Madrid, Spain. A wild 6 primetime games. Now, 2 of them are flexible, those late ones against Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, but I would have to imagine as long as Cincinnati and Miami doesn't completely shit the bed in the early parts of the season, that one would stay. Miami-Pittsburgh could get flexed, but you have 6 potential primetime games. At least 4 of them are guaranteed, and like I mentioned, that late bye week. Last bye week of the year is week 14, so second to last bye week of the year for the Dolphins in week 12. All right, so brief overview of the schedule. Time to go through my prediction here. But if you want the Dolphins to bounce back and make the playoffs in 2025, 2026, hit that thumbs up icon right now. Can't hurt. Help us out. All right, first game of the year, week 1, September 7th. Dolphins travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And I'm giving the Dolphins a win to start the year. Last year, Miami started against an AFC South team in Jacksonville. They do it again here with the Colts. There's so many question marks surrounding the Colts. Who's going to be the starting quarterback in that game? It's going to be Anthony Richardson. It's going to be Daniel Jones. Either way, I think Miami is the better team. It's not a big-time passing attack, so the secondary concerns will not come into big play in this one. I think the Dolphins start the year off good with a win on the road against the Colts and go to 1-0. Then in week 2, you have your first divisional game and home game against the New England Patriots. The Patriots are a much improved team. Vrabel, they had invested in their O-line and defense. Second-year Drake May. They brought in some new weapons. But here's the thing. Miami has owned New England since Tua Tagovailoa has been the starting quarterback. They've owned New England since Mike McDaniel has been the head coach. And when you are playing a likely 1 p.m. Eastern time game at home in early September, it's going to be scorching hot. That's going to play in the Dolphins' favor. And although the Patriots are an improved team and on the same tier as Miami, in my opinion, I'm giving the Dolphins a win here to start the season 2-0. I know it's going to be a tough one. I think the Patriots-Dolphins games this year are going to be absolute battles, but due to this one being early September in Miami at a 1 p.m. time in all likelihood, I think the Dolphins get their second win to begin the year. Which then brings us to a short week. You have to travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Second straight year, the Dolphins in Buffalo will be playing a Thursday night football game in September. The last year's was in Miami. This one's in Buffalo. This is the first loss of the year, in my opinion, for the Fins. I go with a loss here. There you go to 2-1. Until the Dolphins defeat the Bills under Mike McDaniel and Tua, because they haven't done it over the past basically 5 matchups, I am going to continue to pick the Bills to win, so Miami goes 2-1 to start the year. But you have an extra long week. You go from Thursday night football to Monday night football. So a long gap in between games here where you return home for a primetime Monday night game on September 29th against the New York Jets. Justin Fields will be the quarterback for the Jets, new head coach, and Aaron Glenn. I'm not that high on the Jets roster this year. I think they're still going to be a bottom-tier football team, and with this one being at home, I think the Dolphins get a win here. Start the year off 3-1, 2-1 inside their own division with wins against New York, New England at home, losses to the Bills on the road. It's a favorable first 4-game stretch for the Fins with 2 home games, a road game against a inferior team. So give me the Dolphins to start 3-1 on the year. Let me know what game you are most excited for the Fins this year. It's today's pinned comment, so go down and let me know. There's a lot of fun games. The Bills games, the Madrid game, the Ravens Thursday night football game, which we'll get to. Let me know which one you're most excited about. So, after the Dolphins start off 3-1 in my books, we travel to Charlotte, North Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers in Week 5. Still a pretty good weathered game here. And although the Panthers are likely going to be an improved team with third-year Bryce Young, some added weapons in that arsenal, I think the Dolphins are still able to get a win here to improve to 4-1 on the year. The Panthers, although they are improved, I don't think are good enough. I'll take Miami going into Carolina and pulling out a victory. It's as I will continue to mention, a good schedule for the beginning of the year. I'll think the Dolphins get off hot. All right, then we return home in Week 6 to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers, an always fun one for Fins fans who do not like Tua. And I am going to give the Fins a loss in this one. The Chargers, I wasn't high on them last year, and they ultimately made the playoffs and proved me wrong, going 11-6. I think they just are a more physical football team. They've got an elite offensive line. They drafted Amarian Hampton. I think they are just slightly better than Miami, and the dream 4-1 start for the Fins comes to a halt just for 1 week here as you lose a home game against John Harbaugh and the Chargers. But a pretty easy game following that, where Miami will travel to Cleveland in early October. Good news for the Dolphins fans out there. Don't have to go to Cleveland in a cold environment. It should be still relatively nice in mid-October. No one knows who the Browns quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel? Either way, the Browns are likely going to be picking in the top 5 again next year. This one, in my opinion, should be an easy win for the Dolphins. Bounce back performance after losing to the Chargers at home to improve to 5-2 and still have some good momentum rolling into a tough part of the schedule. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because, newsflash, if you weren't with us last year and are just watching our content for the first time, I'm Nic Rohloff. We go live for every single Dolphins game. We go live an hour before kickoff. We are live doing play-by-play commentary and hanging out for each Dolphins game. Subscribe, join the channel for also daily content. So following the 5-2 start in my book, the Dolphins now travel to Atlanta to take on an interesting Falcons team. Michael Penix's first year as a full-time starter. They've got some question marks defensively in that secondary, but a team that was projected in a hot pick to win a lot of games last year, missed the playoffs, now bring back Penix. I think the Dolphins win this one. And maybe I'm a little bit optimistic in my viewpoint of a win on the road, but I don't think Atlanta's the hardest place to play. The Dolphins, if they are able to stay healthy, which I'm projecting in my entire record prediction here, I think are able to get a win. They have a better offense than Atlanta. I think the defenses could be comparable. And as long as the pass rush and front seven can get home to the first-year starter, Michael Penix, I think Miami can get a win here and improve to 6-2. Early 8 weeks, pretty easy. Take advantage. But then we get into a little bit of a tougher stretch. Short week at home against the Baltimore Ravens. This is a Thursday night football game in Miami against a good Baltimore team. And although it is at home, I'm going to give the Dolphins a loss on this one. The Ravens are just better at every aspect. They run the ball better. They are a better passing attack than Miami. At least they were last year. Their defense is better. This is a bad matchup for the Dolphins. Maybe they could pull off an upset at home, but who knows? Maybe the Dolphins would even be favored in this game if they truly do start the year 6-2. But I'm going to give the Fins a loss here at home against the Ravens. Now, you do have a good amount of time to prepare for the Bills in this scenario, who you play in Week 10 because you have an extra long week. So that does provide some help in your favor. Won't be the hottest environment for Buffalo, so it's not like you'll be able to take advantage of that like you were able to do a couple of years ago. I'm going to give the Dolphins a loss, though, in this one, where they go to 6-4 now. Back-to-back losses. First time I'm projecting 2 straight for the Fins this season. Like I said in the beginning, I cannot predict the Dolphins to beat the Bills until they do it. Like they did it the first time under McDaniel in 2022 in that early game at Miami. But after that, it's just been belt to ass, man. Like, that's really what it's been. So I'm going to get the Bills to win here 6-4. And then the highly expected and fun game here between Washington and Miami. Neutral site game. It is in Madrid, Spain on November 16th. I'm going to give the Dolphins a loss. This one could go either way to me because it's a neutral game. Both teams will have to travel. But the Commanders are a high-flying offense. Both teams have question marks defensively. But I'll give the Commanders a loss or win here. Dolphins fall to 6-5. I think this is one of the rare 50-50 games so far. Like, to me, I think the Dolphins are going to be favored in a lot of games and underdogs in a lot. This might be a pickup on a neutral site, being full serious. I'll go Commanders, though, 6-5. I think it's going to be tough for this weak secondary to Miami to slow down Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. It's a serious concern of mine, which is why I go with the Commanders. All right, we'll round out the schedule prediction here in just a second. But get your Chat Sports Dolphins jerseys right now at chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Grab rookie Kenneth Grant, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa. Never too early to be prepared for the 2025 season where we rock jerseys on game day. So get yours today. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Links in the description and comments of today's video. All right, moving on here. After that game against the Commanders in Madrid, Spain, you have a Week 12 bye, so you have 2 weeks to prepare for one of the most projected bad teams in the NFL. We talked about the Browns picking top 5 next year. The Saints will be probably right alongside them. 2 weeks to prepare for a bad football team in New Orleans. Should be an easy get-right game for the Fins after losing 3 straight in my record prediction. They get a blowout win and hopefully get the vibes turned around to get to 7-5 as we get to the home stretch of the regular season. And then a game that will have a lot of intrigue here. Jets-Dolphins in New York, early December, cold weather. Are the Dolphins, this is probably the first cold weather game Miami is going to have to face this schedule because you saw them play at home, overseas, then in a dome. So first cold game of the year is in New York against the Jets. I'm going with a win, though. I am. So I think the Dolphins get to 8-5. The Jets, I'm not sold on them. Their offense is going to be super sketchy. Like Garrett Wilson, are they going to be able to have a good passing attack with Justin Fields? I'm not so sure. So if they aren't going to be able to take advantage of the weakest point of this Dolphins team, which is their secondary, I think Miami's going to be able to control the game against New York pretty easily, even on the road. Those added improvements to the O-line and D-line will prove dividends in this game on the road against New York. So give me the Fins getting a win and moving to 8-5. And then a tough one here. You follow up a game in New York in cold weather environment with a game in Pittsburgh in a cold weather environment. December 15th, also a Monday night football game. So you were in Pittsburgh at night in the cold. That is historically set up bad for Miami, which is why I'm going to give the Dolphins a loss in this one to fall to 8-6 with just 3 games remaining on the schedule. Pittsburgh's interesting. A playoff team last year, assuming they have Aaron Rodgers, I think they will be capable enough to win this game. And with the weather environments, I'll go Pittsburgh to give the Dolphins a loss. Week 16, you return home against Cincinnati. This is a Sunday night football game. Bengals and Fins will likely be battling it out for a wild card spot all season long. So this game will be absolutely massive. A gotta have it game. And I'm going with Miami. There are just too many question marks around the Bengals. I know they have Joe Burrow. They have T. Higgins still. They have Jamar Chase. But that defense is sketchy, man. Trey Hendrickson, will he even be on the team? I don't know. That secondary is a major question mark as well. This, to me, would be an absolute shootout in a late December game in Miami, but I think it's a one the Dolphins can win. One might say this could be a signature win for Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel to get a potential playoff spot and to potentially save their jobs long term. Why not, man? Why not be fun here early in May to give a prediction for a big win at home in Week 16? Then you stay at home for a battle in state against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are a regression team. that division isn't the best. I mean, Carolina and New Orleans are going to be terrible. Atlanta and Tampa are going to probably battle it out for that division, but I'm not that sold on the Buccaneers team. So I think the Dolphins get a win. Back-to-back wins at home. I think this is another game where it's a toss-up. I think both teams are even. Like, if the Dolphins were in the NFC South rather than the AFC East, I think the Dolphins would win that division. Like, that's how serious I am. So I think the Dolphins get a win here at home against Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, and the crew. And they round out the year, Week 18, in Foxborough, Massachusetts, against New England. This could be a game that decides a playoff spot. It really could. Like, in this record prediction for me right now, I have the Dolphins already at 10-6, and you'd have to imagine 10-7 would get them into the playoffs at worst. But this could decide a playoff spot if they're both 8-8, or they're both 8, or like one team's like 9-8. Like, it could be very huge in this environment. I'm going to give the Dolphins a loss in this one. I think I said off the top that I think these two teams are very, very similar. Cold weather game in January in the Northeast. I think the Patriots are able to take advantage of this one. I'm just going to hope and pray that it doesn't ultimately decide a playoff spot, and that the Dolphins coming into this one are already at double-digit wins and have a playoff spot potentially clinched, because I think Miami would lose this game. I don't think they'll be able to sweep New England this year. So I have the Dolphins going 10-7 on the year. But let me know your record prediction for the Fins. Predict the 2025 record. I went game through game. I put it out there on the line for the internet to see. I'm going 10-7. Let me know your thoughts down below. And I do think 10-7 is good enough to make the playoffs. I know I've been very skeptical of the Dolphins offseason so far. I've liked what they did in the draft. The free agency part has been weird to me. The lack of secondary help is very, very concerning. But the NFL did the Dolphins a solid in my books. I really, really do. That first 8-game stretch of the season is very favorable. A lot of like spacing in between games, with a couple Monday night games, a couple Thursday night games. So it's pretty nice to see the NFL, I would say, give the Dolphins a favorable schedule. I think 10-7 is good enough for a playoff spot. And with that win against Cincinnati in Week 16, that is the ultimate factor. They get into the playoffs over Cincinnati because of the tiebreaker. They have the 7th seed. Still think the Dolphins probably won't win a playoff game, because if they barely make it and are the 7th seed, they'll probably have to go on the road against a Buffalo, Baltimore, or Kansas City. That's probably not going to go well, but hey, why not be optimistic and think the Fins make the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years under Mike McDaniel? But like I mentioned, we'll be here every step of the way, the offseason, the regular season, live for every game. It's going to be a ton of fun this upcoming season, so subscribe today and join us.